funny when you're upside down.
Wait, let's come up on three. One,
Two,
two, three.
When the plane first touched down in Guatemala City, I held many misconceptions about this country as a whole. Due to my privilege and Western worldviews, I only thought of an impoverished, developing country. The media portrays a place plagued by violence, crime, and corruption. While Guatemala has a rich history of these things, they are not what defines it entirely. After spending a month living in San Miguel Escobar, commuting to Antigua, and exploring Tikal, Rio Dulce, and Lake Atipan, I have been able to see the beauty and community that thrives here today. So many awful events have occurred in the past and continue happening in Guatemala, but the communities are strong due to their sharing stories and testimonies. Casa de la Memoria is an entire museum dedicated to helping victims and survivors to be heard. They tell the history of Guatemala starting all the way back to the Mayan people. It is a strong and powerful history with very little joy, yet the people of Guatemala still have strong hopes and continue to fight for their beliefs. When something as grave as genocide and massacre happens to a people, the most important thing for the survivors in the community is the healing that comes after. Ronald Vega from De La Gente is only 25 years old, yet has led marches, been arrested, and even told the president of Guatemala that he wanted nothing to do with him or his government. When Ronald came into our class, he told stories of the people he had worked with in the past, and the amount of passion that he spoke with was incredibly moving to me. Not only was he sharing his stories to create healing for himself, but he was also inspiring us and lighting a fire underneath us. Silverio was an old veteran that Daniel Wilkinson interviewed in Silence on the Mountain. He had never shared his story before, and it was something that trapped him, which never allowed for his true healing. Before he started talking, he seemed unable to stay still, as if he had something burning inside him and he didn't know how to put it out. However, after Silverio told his story, Wilkinson realized that this man needed his history to be told. Maybe he wasn't anxious to put out a fire. Maybe he was desperate to keep one alive. Solomon, from the Martyrs Museum room at Porque Estamos, keeps the fire and passion from his past alive by sharing his story with everyone who comes through. He lost many family members during the Civil War and continued searching for them for many years. Eventually, he realized that he was only delaying his healing process, and that telling his story to others could both inform them and provide healing for himself. Now he works in a small room at the museum that commemorates those who have been disappeared and uses the past to drive the future. I was surprised by how comfortable and welcome I felt on the streets of Antigua and San Miguel Escobar, and how many people greeted me with a cheerful Buenos Dias. I have now realized that the reason for this is the effects of the United States cultural imperialism and the presence of familiar brands and Americanized cafes. Especially in the city of Antigua, there are many restaurants and cafes that cater to tourists, with menus in English and non-Guatemalan food. While dining at these places still supports the local economy, it makes me think hard and criticize my own comfort levels. It is difficult to sit with this idea that we are contributing to the elimination of the indigenous culture here in Guatemala. Essentially, through mass media, advertisements, and Hollywood entertainment, we are imposing our beliefs, culture, and beauty standards upon the people of Guatemala and other less developed countries. Through this process, indigenous people are losing their culture. They see the American ideal woman with light, straight hair and want to be like that. They see the way that Hollywood actors dress and act. The Mayan people have a distinct dress, with wheat heels and long, colorful skirts. However, when I look around Antigua and most of San Miguel Escobar, all I see is jeans and t-shirts. One of the most beautiful parts of their culture has dissipated due to the cultural imperialism from the United States, and this can cause a loss of community. The part of Guatemala that inspired me the most is seeing the work that De La Gente is doing. I have hoped that there could be economic upswing for the people there. In our first section of reading, we discussed the differences between helping, fixing, and serving others. In the article Helping, Fixing, or Serving, Rachel Naomi Remen writes, "When you help, you see life as weak. When you fix, you see life as broken. When you serve, you see life as whole." De La Gente sees the lives of these farmers and their families as whole. They provide resources for all aspects of their lives, including clean water, community connections, and additional income opportunities. With the addition of a Guatemalan to their board of directors, it is obvious that De La Gente is working to create a sustainable community here, and will one day be able to step out and allow the community to continue functioning without their help and funding. De La Gente also sees the capabilities of the people in this area rather than the deficiencies. In his article, Why Servanthood is Bad, John McKnight emphasizes the difference between organizations that focus on deficiencies over capabilities. He tells the story of an anti-poverty program that conducts a needs survey and concludes that the community needs certain programs, while the reality is that the community really needs resources to build itself up from the inside out. When we focus on capacities, we can focus on the person and what they can do for their community. Another inspiring community came from Daniel Wilkinson's Silence on the Mountain. The story of the Secuchum people who live in the highlands of Guatemala is an incredible one. During the Civil War, they suffered a massacre in their village committed by the Guatemalan military. Wilkinson visited Secuchum years later to listen to their story, and one of the villagers said, "As a community, we had to move ahead. We've worked on projects to improve the town. We have a health center, a school, this community hall. In this way, we've improved ourselves a lot. Even though you never forget, you have to live always with the memory, but we have come together as a community." This emphasis on coming together in a community is one that I have seen in many places throughout this trip. While we as GAP students strengthen our own community, we have witnessed the community of farmers at De La Gente, the students at EHOS, and the students and staff with Garden and School of Hope. No matter what has happened in the past, the most important thing that we can do is come together and move forward towards sustainability and happiness. During the first week here on campus, we learned about Communio. It seemed to be all anyone was ever talking about. After an initial presentation, I thought I had a really good idea of what it was, and after VOBS, I thought I had an even better idea of what it is. Communio was being kind to everyone around you and not excluding anyone, right? It wasn't until I had spent 3 whole months living with the same 17 people that I realized the true meaning of Communio. Communio is being a family and support system for each other through everything. It is welcoming anyone into the family, regardless of race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or political beliefs. One of the quickest ways to create a strong community is shared experience, especially when it is a stressful and emotional experience. I'm so blessed to have had this opportunity to flip my misconceptions about Guatemala and Communio completely upside down. When I look around at the place I've been able to call home for the past month, I see a community of people who have undergone great suffering, yet still have united for their beliefs and their country. While the negative effects of cultural imperialism are still apparent there's hope for these people and their rich culture. As Ronald said on our tour of USAC, telling our stories is so powerful because it provides healing, and our best revenge is to be happy again.
We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. Everyone can see we're together as we walk on by, and we fly just like birds of a feather. I won't tell no lie. All of the people around us, they say, can they be that close? Just let me state for the record, we're giving love in a